Indira Gandhi National Open University presents a program titled Sustainable Development by the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. Let us listen to the program.
I'm Megha Jain, and in this program, topic for you, which is Sustainable Development and Introduction. We will introduce the need and importance of sustainable development in the context of present scenario, and we'll also highlight the objectives, principle, and the measures of sustainable development. To throw the light on this particular topic, we have with us Dr. Y.S.C. Kuman, School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies. And we also have with us Dr. Diksha Dave, School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, IGNOU. I would like to welcome both of you.
Thank you, Meghna.
कार्यक्रम की शुरुआत करते हैं मैम. We do hear this term sustainable development quite often, but still some of the students are still confused as into what exactly is sustainable development. So what do you say?
The point here is I will directly come to the definition given by Brundtland Commission.
Right.
This World Commission on Environment Sustainable Development in 1987. It gives a definition that development to meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability to meet the needs of the future generation. That shows that you need to maintain some quality for the present generation, and you have to give some or the return or stewardship to give for the future generation. That is the point.
Okay, अगर हम इस टर्म की बात करें sustainable development, इसकी उत्पत्ति कहाँ से हुई थी? What is the origin of this term?
1960s के बाद में population increased. The population increased because we were able to conquer many of the diseases. The birth rate was high and there was a sudden drop in the death rate because we have made advancements in the medical sciences. Now this was the period, particularly only when the environmental problems also grew. So at that time there was the book by Rachel Carson. This is a very famous book, and it said the limits to growth. For the first time we thought that is this growth never ending? It discussed about the pesticide use, how it affects the health of the people and how ecosystems are affected. That was the beginning, of a thought process which came in the minds of thinkers, the policy makers, the scientists, the researchers. They started thinking about what could be the solution. And as Sir rightly mentioned here, that was the Brundtland Commission. It published a report which specifically said that we want a development which is sustainable, which continues forever. And according to definition itself, it says that not compromise the ability of future generations, the quality life. No, by quality life we mean not just having the materialistic possessions with us. We also need pure air, pure water. You need affordable spacing. You need a proper shelter. So that it means that you have a quality life for future generations also. So that is how, it started, the deliberations, the discussions started related to sustainable development. And the importance, as we know, it is quite evident now.
Actually, in a simple way, what she has explained, that was started, the concept in international arena started after Rachel Carson, she had that Silent Spring, the book 1967. So, if in a layman language we can say, you keep your balance sheet. For example, our parents, we always say for our children, okay, how much income we are getting, how much we have to manage in that way, and how much we have to retain for the future of our children. This is a kind of thing. So, this concept has to be, you have bring this concept into global perspective and look all globe as a family. So, we need to think different species, different community, and different part of the world as our members of this global family. This is the concept. So you think in this way, maintaining the balance of your family, the world as a family.
तो जैसे आपने बताया कि जब इस शब्द की उत्पत्ति हुई तो कुछ ना कुछ उद्देश्य भी रहे होंगे. So what are the objectives of sustainable development?
Sustainable development is a concept जो 3 pillars पे काम करता है. जी. एक social pillar है, एक environmental pillar है, the economic pillar है. Okay. Basically हम objectives we want to take in such a way that we are able to meet the requirements. We are able to, provide the solutions in both the 3 contexts. Economically also, we never say कि sustainable development करना है तो you go back to the nomadic stage, you go back to the less developed. ऐसा नहीं है. Sustainable development also underlies the principle of economic growth the environment protection, and also the social stability in the system. So objective of, if we say, to have a harmonious development, to have a constant and ongoing development. That is the basic. The underlying objectives can be protection of the natural resources is a one point, then stable economic growth is another point, then you have to maintain the health of the people, then you have to provide education to the people so that people have a dignified life. So these are the other objectives of sustainable development.
See, I want to elaborate and supplement the things. See, we human depend on natural resources. In that, we use the technology, right? Using the technology, we extrapolate or utilize natural resources. So this is the culture. Our culture, who is this utilizing the resources? With that pillar of social, environment and economy, we need to have another pillar of culture. Culture should be in cultural focus, because if we maintain the culture, then we'll be able to maintain a harmonious relation.
That is a fourth pillar which is coming now, that we also, हम देना चाहते हैं कल्चर जो इम्पोर्टेंस है कल्चर की, उसका भी बहुत इम्पोर्टेंस होता है किसी भी तरह के डेवलपमेंट को सस्टेन करने के लिए.
आवश्यकता की अगर हम बात करें, is sustainable development necessary?
Of course. See, if you look into, let us take an example, poverty. Let us go to the rural area. The poverty is, the rate of poverty is very high. So you depend everything on natural environment. When there is degradation in natural environment, from where they will get, there is amenities. आजकल के जो खाने के लिए उनका खाना पीना कहाँ से मिलेगा? तो पर्यावरण अगर सुधर नहीं पाया और पॉसिबल नहीं है. और दूसरा चीज जो हम सोचते हैं, जो प्रदूषण का बाउंड्री होता है क्या? नहीं है ना मैडम. अब प्रदूषण का बाउंड्री होता नहीं है. दिल्ली का एयर पोल्यूशन कहीं कहीं पे पहुंच जाता है. लाइक Jamuna water pollution, it will reach to other state. Like that, the pollution in a country, it transferred to another territory. Like pollution in India's Ganga pollution, it goes up to till that is the reason why we need to bring together wholesomeness, a holistic approach of development. So different part of, components of the society. That's why we need.
Right. Ma'am, Dr. Kuman just mentioned about the environment, and we often see this term associating with the environment. So why is sustainable development so often associated with protecting the environment? You said 3 pillars initially, and now sir focused on environment, and we do hear about environment and this. So what do you say on that?
ये बहुत एक मिसकंसेप्शन है, क्योंकि एक लेमैन हमेशा जब हम सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट किसी को एक्सप्लेन करते हैं, हम बात करते हैं, तो लोग ज्यादातर इसको एनवायरमेंट प्रोटेक्शन से रिलेट करते हैं. पानी को बचाना है, पेड़ लगाना है, वही सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट नहीं होता है. बट मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम इट इज सो, बिकॉज 1980s की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं, जब ये सारा एनवायरमेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स ग्रो हो रहा था, जब इनिशिएशन हुआ था सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट का, तब एनवायरमेंटल प्रॉब्लम्स ही फोकस था. बिकॉज वी वांटेड टू कट डाउन द पोल्यूशन, वी वांटेड टू फोकस ऑन आवर फाइंडिंग्स, हाउ वी कैन कर्ब पोल्यूशन, हाउ वी कैन सिक्योर healthy environment. But today there is a huge difference, because environment is just a part of the 3-legged concept of sustainable development. तो environment management practices अलग होती हैं, sustainable development practices अलग होती हैं. These two practices are entirely different, because if you take the example, environment management practices, you are able to purify a lake or a river. Okay. But if you're not able to give access of water to all the people, then that purification of water doesn't mean that you have managed a water body. So sustainable development encompasses that beyond environment, you have to provide the products of nature, the services of nature should be accessible to all the sections of the society. That is also very important, क्योंकि आज हम जो rural urban divide देखते हैं society में, the poor people, they are the victims of environmental disasters. The disasters are happening because of mismanagement of environment. And ongoing, you see the price rise happening, you see the corruption happening, all the types of social evils भी जो हैं, that is, in some way or the other mismanagement. So we must understand that sustainable development and environment protection, these are two different things. Sustainable development is a big umbrella, and that encompasses so many things. Gender equality is one, education is one, and protecting environment is a part.
Right. So there is a quote saying, I don't want to protect the environment. I want to create a world where the environment does not need protecting.
Yeah, that has come into that issues of that responsibility.
Yes.
See, planting a tree is very easy. Today you can plant a tree. But nurturing the tree is very important. So that is the responsibility we need to, give the responsibility to each and every individual. Because if we do not, able to manage all that thing, there is a chaos. That's why there is conflict of South, North-South in global context for maintaining this thing. Because, you cannot preserve that one portion and you can exploit others. As I mentioned, there is no boundary of natural resources. So ethics is very important.
Environmental ethics की जब हम बात कर रहे हैं ना, those ethics are play a very important role in sustainable development. इसके अलावा हमें ecological footprint also we must consider. एक concept होता है ecological footprint का, where you know how much share you have with respect to the resource usage. So that also is very important to consider. For example, North-South divide is there. You know, the difference between the developed and the developing countries. You know, when you talk about sustainable development, the implications of the term जो हैं, they are different. Both of the countries, the developed and the developing, they interpret it in a different manner. तभी आज हम बात करते हैं collective but differentiated responsibilities. You know, ये एक principle है climate change का, जिसके अंतर्गत हम ये देखते हैं कि the phenomena is quite clear that climate change is happening. As sir said, there is no boundary. It affects everybody. From Antarctica to the coastal areas, everybody is affected by climate change.
Right.
लेकिन जो responsibility है वो developed और developing countries दोनों का अलग अलग तरीके से आता है. Because we are fighting with population problems. The population numbers are rising. We are not able to feed people. The people are living in abysmally, difficult conditions, unhygienic conditions. But on the other hand, the developed world, they are having a quite luxurious life. The ecological footprint, जिसकी हमने बात करी, that is much wider for them. So कहीं ना कहीं एक balance जो है, that is required. If you want to achieve the goal of sustainable development, there has to be a kind of a balance between the developed and the developing countries. And the meaning of sustainable development varies in both the things.
Does a sustainable development applies to all spheres of activity?
See, you cannot see only one component. So, for example, when you construct a building, you need to see the quality of pillars, quality of wall, quality of basement, quality of door, everything. So, when we survive in the world, here, now, even in now day-to-day activities also, you depend in one others. That is start. See, you need good and good quality water. अच्छा पानी चाहिए आपको. Then, we'll discuss in day-to-day activities. From morning itself till evening, you are in an environment where very hectic. Right? Then, in the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, सब लोग हम जाना चाहते हैं aesthetically कहीं इधर उधर some other place. So, for example, if you are living in a good environment in Delhi, in a closed room where there is no pollution or everything, but when you walk out, if you have the pollution, you will not be comfortable. Like that, when you go for aesthetic value, you are go for recreation, and if that place is not comfortable to you, how can you say you are living in a, beautiful world? और ये दूसरा पॉइंट, आप अच्छे रह रहे, अच्छे खाना खा रहे, आपकी नाइबर्स आपके बगल पे, if they are not having good food, if they are not having good toilet, are you able to survive in that environment? So, जो marginal section of the society, उनको भी सोचना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि society ऐसा है, अकेला individual cannot make society. So it is intra-generational point of view. And let us look in the other again. So we human have to think for the other species.
Yes.
Plant के लिए, animals के लिए.
Sustainable development is the core around which all the activities are running. So today, you find an ample amount of information on sustainable economic growth. There is sustainable agriculture, means which will give you output, the kind of output which you want for a long-term basis. You have sustainable population also, which has a balance between consumption, the technological use, and the number. You have sustainable tourism. So everywhere, you are using this word sustainable. You will find this thing. कि हम हर जगह आजकल सस्टेनेबल की बात करते हैं, सस्टेनेबल कंजम्पशन, सस्टेनेबल बिजनेस, सस्टेनेबल इकोनॉमी. सो दैट मीन्स नाउ द वर्ल्ड टुडे हैज रियलाइज्ड that it is not a buzzword, but everywhere the sustainability, the life of whatever the activity you are doing, whether it is sustainable or not, that has become a major point of discussion, and the whole world today talks about sustainability. So the question which you asked particularly, Taki, yes, it applies to all the spheres.
I would like to talk about the goals. What are the sustainable development goals?
Let us look back again. The issues of sustainability, that issues already started in 1798 when Malthus, one economist, the famous economist in Western world, he talks about the consequence of population. Right? What he was talking is, the world has limited land species. So, world has limited land species, and with increase of population in this limited land species, we have limited resources. It may be living or non-living. So with increase of population, we have given so much pressure on the resources. Giving much pressure to the resources will create an environment indicator. That because of that, there will be imbalances.
Yes.
That
because the resources are limited.
Yeah, that he was pointed out. So there, in between, there are a number of philosophers, but they are supporting these things. However, but there against that also some are saying that on Bosserov in 1985 and in 80s, beginning 80s, what he was telling, she was telling that her theory says that with increase of population, the human will think, okay, we need this. Then because of that, we'll try to control the population. That was her test, her hypothesis. But unfortunately, it is not happening. Yes. Population are increasing. Environmental deterioration is increasing. That is why 1960s, Raquel Carson in her book, she already emphasized that it is the pollution that is killing all the resource cycle. That whatever the pesticide we are putting to the field, it is coming to our body.
Yes.
That was then. So, looking into that thing, the Global United Nations convened a conference that called UN Convention on Human Environment 1972 in Stockholm. And the then Prime Minister, our Prime Minister Srimati Indira Gandhi, she has already pointed out in that time that environment quality and the poverty has close relation. Since that raised this issue, where nowadays we are facing the social inequality and there is equal issues of equality, gender issues, that she has indirectly raised this issue in that UN Stockholm conference. Then a lot of theory, IPET, Paul already raised one theory, IPET, I equal P into A into T. I is impact, A is indicated, P is population, A is affluent, T is technology. We are with the increase of population, we started to use the technology. And we are using an affluent lifestyle. So impact is that with the increase of population, your consumption or affluent lifestyle is increasing. And there is limitation of technology. So this is how the sustainable development, concept of sustainable development started. And in 1992, UN Conference on Human Conference on Environment and Development that was happened in Rio. The international community, they started a new initiative, global initiative called Agenda 21 that talks about different components. As she has already, Dr. Diksha already mentioned it, component. Its component को कैसा दिखा जाए, कैसा करा जाए, कैसा maintain करा जाए, qualitatively, quantitatively. How to do it? Not we should not talk about from point resources, from point this exploitation. We should talk about utilization, efficient uses of resources. So Agenda 21. So in that started to talk about sustainable development indicators. Social indicators में क्या करा जाए? Example जो equality, poverty होना नहीं चाहिए, education होना चाहिए, environmental quality में पानी का क्या quality होना चाहिए, quantity कैसा होना चाहिए, and economic indicator. So there should not be difference between rich and the poor, individual wise, region, spatial, we call it spatial difference, temporal difference होना नहीं चाहिए. These are the indicators that talks about it. Then in 2001 to 2015, then started Millennium Development Goals. This is the journey how sustainable development started. MDG and MDG 8 goals है. इसी 8 goals में in global effort किया गया था. We have to achieve each and every component, how to bring sustainable and how to achieve that thing. But fortunately, unfortunately, it was in some part we are able to do, but in some component we are not able to do. That's why Sustainable Development Goal, in the Sustainable Development Goals, in that time 2015, the United Nations, the global community thought that okay, we achieved so much, so we need to continue this goal. We should, example, 2 घंटा में मैं इसी इधर तक जाना है तो आपको इसके पेस में जाएगा ना. So that's why target रख के 2015 तक MDG किया था. Now Sustainable Development Goal which you raise is जो another 17 goals, सब goals डाल दिया. 17 goals के साथ हमको 2030 तक we have to achieve that. That is Sustainable Development Goals. It has 17 goals. She will explain.
On 25th September 2015, these 17 goals with 169 targets, they were framed, and it is said that by 2030, we hope to achieve these goals with the intended targets.
Definitely we'll do that. And हमने सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को अडॉप्ट किया है, लेकिन फिर भी व्यवहारिक स्तर पर जो चुनौतियां हैं, जैसे कि लैक ऑफ फंड की है, तो इसमें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सहयोग क्या कुछ मिल रहा है, और साथ ही साथ क्लाइमेट चेंज की भी यहाँ आपसे जानना चाहेंगे हम कि क्लाइमेट चेंज के जो पैटर्न में बदलाव हो रहा है उसमें भारत को आप कैसे देखते हैं.
आप देखो आ गया फर्स्ट पर लैक ऑफ फंड. जब मिलेनियम डेवलपमेंट गोल हुआ था, in that time globally they have given fund to different country. So in that time major responsibility हुआ था डेवलप कंट्री का, थोड़ा सा फंड दे दे डेवलपिंग और अंडर डेवलप कंट्री में. इसमें कुछ अचीव हुआ, कुछ नहीं हुआ, बट वी वर श्योर इन दैट टाइम कुछ अंडर डेवलप कंट्री खुश नहीं हुआ था और फंड ठीक से मिल नहीं रहा, बिकॉज अंडर डेवलप कंट्री पुअर कंट्री डू नॉट हैव मनी. आपने तो कह दिया इम्प्लीमेंट करो, इम्प्लीमेंट करने के लिए आपको पैसा चाहिए. एग्जैक्टली व्हाट ही वाज रेजिंग. एक कमी आ रहा है, इसको भी पॉलिसी मेकर ने इम्प्लीमेंट में देखा गया था. तो इसीलिए जो 8 गोल में कुछ अचीव हुआ, कुछ नहीं हुआ, वो देख के वो लोग ने फिर डेवलपिंग कंट्री और अंडर डेवलप कंट्री एक साथ करके ओके वी हैव टू गिव द टारगेट करके ये सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल लेके आया, विच 17 मेजर फोकस ऑन this eradication of poverty, economic inequality, health, education, water, sanitation, climate change, and conservation of ecosystem. As you mentioned, that climate change. So we are getting money also climate change. That's why in India also we have National Action on Climate Change. We already are having.
Yes.
So this is the thing.
और क्लाइमेट चेंज की जो ये बात कर रहे हैं, यस वी आर अडॉप्टिंग एंड ट्रेडिशनल हमारा जो सिस्टम्स हैं, वी आर रिवाइविंग दो सिस्टम्स. एंड अभी तक जो हम इंडस्ट्रियलाइज कंट्रीज को ब्लाइंडली फॉलो करते थे, यू नो, विदाउट थिंकिंग अबाउट द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेज, नाउ समवेयर द अवेयरनेस एंड कम एंड द अथॉरिटीज, यू नो, दे आर devising plans to revive the practices that were prevalent in India during ancient times, the water storage structures or the climate friendly crops, whatever we are growing, for example, where the places where the water scarcity is there. So according to the type of the geography of the topography of the place, the plantation of the crops in that manner, promotion of the local foods, that also has been going on. तो ये कुछ measures हैं जिससे कि हम, you know, apart from the technical things to fighting the climate change, at local level अगर हम बात करें तो we are devising the solutions in this manner, जिससे कि हम फिर से हम पहले की तरह से पहले के ट्रेडिशनल मेथड्स को रिवाइव कर सकें.
बिल्कुल.
With that focus, as we also know this goal is transforming our world, the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So major goals are end poverty in all its form everywhere, everywhere, not in a particular area. It should be across the globe. So we are talking about it spatial हर जगह पे एक साथ होना चाहिए. End hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, promote sustainable agriculture. It's one of the such goal. Ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all the ages. Ensure inclusive and equitable equality education की भी है. Then इसके बाद भी gender equality है, availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation भी है, affordability, reliability, sustainable modern energy technology भी इस्तेमाल करना है. And these are some of the major goal. And conserve and sustainable use the ocean, seas, marine, resources को कंजर्व करके ठीक से इस्तेमाल यूटिलाइजेशन करना है. पीसफुल इंक्लूसिव सोसाइटी फॉर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट करना है.
Right.
These are some of the things.
Bilkul. I would like to ask, ma'am, how are population dynamics related to sustainable development?
So the concerns of population, एक misconception है कि population की जब बात आती है तो हम सिर्फ numbers की बात करते हैं. तो basically the thing is that कि population dynamics have a significant influence on sustainable development. And whatever the efforts we are doing for promoting the sustainable development, if they do not address the population dynamics, everything that is in vain. But another thing is that कि population dynamics में क्या आता है? Population dynamics में population growth है, population size है, population distribution है, characteristics है population का कि old age population ज़्यादा है, young age population कैसी है. So ये जो population के dynamics हैं, we cannot consider population as a separate and sustainable development as a separate thing. तो population की जो dynamics होते हैं, कैसे migration हो रहा है? For example, population growth. If it happens in a place which is already struggling for the natural resources. If there is a high fertility in those areas, obviously there will be more strain on the natural resources in that area. So you cannot think of having sustainable development there. Similarly, the distribution of the population. If the population is not evenly distributed, just urbanization ke karan, what is happening today? Most of the people are migrating. It is believed that almost 60% of the population lives in urban areas. And the situation is going to worse by 2050. So this is the distribution problem. If the population is distributed at some place, so there is a fight for the resources, for the space, for water, sanitation, food, everything. You know, these dynamics का direct relationship है sustainable development के साथ.
बिल्कुल. How these population dynamics can help to promote sustainable development?
Migration is often the internal migration, the international migration, all these aspects are taking place. Now, migration also brings with it the skills, the transfer of knowledge. So, in that way also, we can think that the way to sustainable development is promoted by such population figures. But instead of taking the top-down approach for population growth, it is always better to take a bottom-up approach. You know, how you take population figures, it is related that not in an alarmist way, but a human-centric approach होना चाहिए for, addressing the issues of population growth. जैसे कि अभी हम SDGs की भी बात कर रहे थे, तो SDGs का एक primary motto, no one should be left behind. For example, the marginalized people, the poor sections of the society, even the women, the vulnerable population, the tribals who are living in the remote places. So why we are considering them? If we do not consider, because these are the aspect of population. They too constitute the population because they too utilize the resources.
And it is also important to understand, sir, what are the implications of sustainable development for human well-being?
See, we are human-centric. But when we implement that human-centric, we have to think for others. Because I told you, when we are utilizing our resources from the environment, so we need to have a good environment. What is economy? At last, हम क्यों काम कर रहे हैं? This for economy, monetary value. कहाँ से मिलता है? That is from the environment. Resources are in the environment. आपकी environment अच्छा नहीं हुआ, आपकी. So the logic is sustainable development holistic approach. इसीलिए holistic approach है. आपके पास इतना पैसा हो, इतना wealth हो, अगर आपके पास अच्छा fruit नहीं है, अच्छा पानी नहीं है, वो नहीं होगा. And the forest also, its own ecosystem, क्योंकि इनके साथ भी animal होता है. There are number of living organisms. They have also maintained the things. If they are there, the natural process going on automatically. इसकी वजह से हमारा health अच्छा हो रहा है. So it is very important to balance all these.
To the state, we have to ensure that essential services like health, education and opportunities for livelihoods basically and a healthy environment should be provided to all. So that is the ultimate objective of the sustainable development, that we are able to utilize the resources of the planet. We are able to give a dignified life to the people, to all the people. The inequities and inequalities, which is growing day by day with the rise of consumerism, is there. A lot of things are coming up. The rich are getting richer. The poor are getting poorer. So this divide is, the cause of the social inequalities, and they are also the cause of many problems which are happening in the society.
Right. And this reminds me of the quote that the greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. I mean, as a citizen, हम कैसे contribute कर सकते हैं sustainable development?
As an individual, many people think, but what can I do?
Yes.
How can I? What I'm doing, I'm not able to meet my daily requirements. How can I contribute to a sustainable development? But it is there that each and every individual has a role. For example, taking the basic steps. Wherever you are living, you have to protect the resources. Small things, that water conservation is switching off the light, energy resources conservation is important. As you start taking responsible positions in the society, your role also becomes important. So in this way, I think every individual can contribute by, living an environment-friendly lifestyle, adopting that lifestyle, thinking of others without, thinking of the profits and the losses. If our neighbors are not happy, sir has rightly said, we cannot be happy. ये कुछ तरीके हैं जिनसे हम इंश्योर कर सकते हैं कि हर व्यक्ति का एक योगदान होता है. There are 5 P's which are important. That is, people, they are the center of growth. If we are not there, yes, no effort is there. Then planet is important. That means the resources are important. Prosperity is important because economic growth we are not denying. Peace, which we are losing nowadays, and partnership. Because alone, no development is possible. So ये 5 P's हैं जिनसे हम आगे बढ़ते हुए सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट को इंश्योर कर सकते हैं.
बिल्कुल. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आप दोनों का, डॉक्टर YSC खुमान जी एंड डॉक्टर दीक्षा दवे जी, यहाँ आने के लिए और इतनी सारी जानकारियां हमसे बांटने के लिए. और श्रोताओं, इसी के साथ का ये अंक जो है वो यहीं पर समाप्त होता है. तो मुझे यानी कि मेघा जैन को दीजिए अनुमति.
You were listening to a program titled Sustainable Development by the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, IGNOU. Participants of the program were Dr. YSC Kuman, Dr. Diksha Dave, and Megha Jain as the anchor. Program technically supported by Aarti Karihallu and edited by Gauri Joshi. Program produced by Reena Boro. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.